What? Let's go to SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles for the man who covered the game for the JAKIB Media. The great John McMullen joins us. John, this was a great win. The pitch is shut out in the second half against a seasoned veteran quarterback who riddled you in the first half. It's pretty lofty stuff. Your thoughts?
Yeah, it wasn't looking good at halftime. If you guys run back the halftime show, I was not too confident about that secondary after Cooper Kupp just shredded their sort of piecemeal plan in the slot, and they end up going out in the second half. They gave up 80 yards maybe total. So it was a tremendous defense, and I didn't see it coming. They did a lot of credit. I did talk to Slay in the locker room. He mentioned that because in the first half they threw, first it was Mario Goodrich, then it was Eli Ricks, then it was Bradley Roby, then they went back to Goodrich, back to Ricks, and Kupp was just killing everybody. And Slay said, "Look, we gotta calm this down. You know, probably a little bit more zone coverage, try to control things." And then they made Matthew Stafford uncomfortable. I think you can go to the one Jalen Carter sack that looked pretty violent, and that really threw Matthew Stafford off. He was getting the ball out. They put it up here at SoFi. They have the biggest scoreboard in the world. It's unbelievable, by the way, this stadium. He was getting the ball out in 2.24 seconds. So he was hurried. And that was the game plan for the Rams because they were worried about this pass rush. Then you see Hassan Reddick be the closer at the end of the game. We say it every week, they keep finding ways to win games. 454 yards of total offense. They're over 415 yards, guys, for 4 consecutive games. It's only the fourth time in franchise history they've done that. And they did it last season, and now they've done it again this season. That's how productive this offense is.
Hey, John, we got plenty of time to talk about the X's and O's. I want the dirt, man. Did Jalen Hurts talk about the intense conversation at one point he was having on the sideline with Coach Nick Sirianni?
No, I don't think anybody here saw it. So he certainly wasn't asked about it. We saw the Quesman stuff. So Nick admitted he was pretty angry about that. Doesn't think Quez turned the football up on the third down. One of the few, they started 11 of 13 on third down, and they should have been 13 of 13 because one was the Quez play, and the other one was Jalen Hurts overthrowing Quez. So he was wide open. So they were extremely effective on third downs until late in the game. But as far as that, no, we didn't know to ask the question. We certainly will. I certainly will this week. But you have that stuff in game, and Jalen Hurts is known as a player that takes hard coaching well, so Nick is not afraid to call him out at times. I'm not sure exactly what happened, but there was a little bit of frustration. I think that the one frustration for this offense is not being able to finish. They continued the red zone struggles, so they're still not clicking on all cylinders, but they got Dallas Goedert involved. A.J. Brown had another big game, as I mentioned, 454 yards of total offense. It's pretty productive for having a lot of problems.
John, I know they like him, but how long can the Eagles continue on with Quez Watkins, as their number 3 wide receiver? It just seems to me like more times than not, he's not being productive and not doing things the way that he needs to do it, and at some point in time, you got to realize that he's not going to be that guy and move on. Olamide Zaccheaus has been extremely productive in his stead while he was injured. You bring him back today. Yeah, Jalen Hurts overthrew a ball to him, but he hit him with a ball in the end zone that it was clear that that's not the type of ball that you throw to him. He dropped it. And then, you get the third down situation where you got it blocked up, and all he's got to do is use his speed to go straight ahead. And what does he do? He runs outside right into the block, and they have to punt the ball on third down rather than converting.
Well, I think, I talk about this with Jody, I think every day on Birds 365, because he's not a big Quez Watkins guy either. I don't think anybody is in the fan base, but, um, it, you know, to me, Quez Watkins is about traits. And by that, I mean he's a legit 4-3 guy. So in a league of fast guys, he's really fast. And he's not a traffic guy. So he's on the field to create spacing for AJ and Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert, and that's his role. They want that speed on the field to create that spacing. Now, you're asking why are you throwing the football to him on bubble screens? That I think is more of a coaching problem. Or you don't have better options on bubbles like that, or wide receiver screens, or 3rd and 2s to get the football and cut. Why isn't that DeAndre Swift? So I think that's more of a Nick Sirianni, Brian Johnson call, but maybe they want to give Quez some confidence and get him back going in a positive direction coming off the injury. And this is probably, look, he's in the final year of his deal. This is probably his last year in Philadelphia, unless he comes back at a really reduced number. But while they have him, they want to take advantage of that 4-3 speed. And he's not about the traffic. The traffic today was Dallas Goedert, 8 catches and 9 targets, 117 yards. A.J. Brown, 6 and 8 targets for 127. Those were the traffic guys today. And although it's esoteric, Quez gives them a little bit more spacing to do their job because you have to respect his ability to run by people.
Yeah, but it's almost like, you're playing 10 on 11, John, because there's going to come a point in time where you're going to need him to make a play. And if it's not one of those situations where he's running wide open down the field and Jalen throws the ball right in the breadbasket, you can't count on him to make those plays when they take away everything else, and you're going to need him because teams are going to get to a point where they're going to take away the main thing, okay? And they're going to force you to have to go to him. And when you can't rely on him to step up and make a play when you need him to make a play, then that's problematic. The other thing, too, is how is the Eagles' offense so athletic, so explosive, so dynamic, but they can't run screens to save their lives? If they were a good screen team, man, listen, you guys, if they could run screens, they would be unstoppable. But they can't run bubble screens, running back screens, tight end screens. They can't run any screens effectively.
Yeah, they're not a good screen team. The bubble screens drive me crazy. I think it's such, people talk about the tush push or the brotherly shove or whatever you want to call it being an ugly play. I think the ugliest play in football, I've been saying it for years, is the bubble screen. And everybody does it, from the Eagles down to the lowest of college teams. And they do it multiple times each game. And look, when you hit everything perfectly and you get the blocks, it can turn into a big play. But more often than not, it's going nowhere. It's just a staple of the modern game. And I wish not only the Eagles would get away from it, but everybody else would get away from it. Maybe except San Francisco, because they're successful with it. But they have the type of players that can manufacture those yardage, whether it's Christian McCaffrey or Deebo Samuel. So you have to have that player. It's almost like a punt return. And by the way, while I'm on this tangent, D-Gun, I don't think Britton Covey could run high if he wanted to. He's like 5'8", and they're probably giving him a couple inches.
You're right. You're right, John. But John,
beyond that,
be honest, John. He's a moving target. He doesn't get down, embrace him. I mean, dudes are hitting him, pop, 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 pop. You got to brace yourself, man.
He took a lot of punishment early in his rookie season. But I got to tell you, he's been the best punt returner in football since about week 10 of last year. He's really good. I don't think people realize, if you go back to college, the 2 best punt returners in his senior year were Marcus Jones and him. Marcus Jones is on the Patriots, was an All-Pro last year. And he leads the NFL in punt returns since about week 10 of last season. He's actually a really good punt returner. But yeah, I fear for his life because he's 5'8", 170 pounds, and he's a tough kid. But yeah, the bubble screens, that was my original point. Yeah, I wish they would stick them in the circular file, but they're not going to do it.
John, I was one of the people that was talking to you at halftime there, and neither one of us was very high on what the Eagles were doing in their secondary, trying to defend Cooper Kupp, trying to really take away anything from Matthew Stafford. I mean, the numbers just bear it out pretty bluntly there. 95 yards in the first half with 6 receptions, and then only 2 receptions with 23 yards in the second half. So you mentioned the personnel the Eagles were throwing in the way of Cooper Kupp and at Matthew Stafford. Was there anything schematically they were doing different in the second half because of the chess match that we were talking about on the pregame show between Sean Desai and Sean McVay? Sean Desai won by a huge margin in that second half.
Yeah, he did. I'm a little bit surprised that Sean McVay, for his reputation, didn't get Cooper in some better positions in the second half. The first thing I would say is, man, he's really good. I mean, he is such a sharp route runner. He creates so much separation inside compared to other slot receivers in this league. It's pretty amazing to watch in person to see how much room he can generate. And there were a couple deep balls where Matthew Stafford was just hurried, but he was open, and he just made a couple bad throws and didn't give Cooper Kupp a chance. If the Eagles' pass rush wasn't there, he could have been at 200. That's how open he was down the field. So I would say, first off, they're not going to see that every week. He's that good. But secondly, I think, as I mentioned, I don't think it was a good idea to go Goodrich, Ricks, Roby. I understand Roby's not ready to play the whole game, but I would have settled on one of them and said, all right, do your best. I don't think to throw that many, they're throwing the kitchen sink, and none of them could deal with them. Even Slay got beat on that 39-yard reception. He's just really good. So I think they settled it down a little bit. They played more zone, and they said, Jalen Carter, Hassan Reddick, go get the quarterback. And they did. I think Jalen Carter's sack, as I mentioned, really turned this game because I think it was such a violent sack. I think it really got Matthew Stafford's head.
Hey, John, by the way, Britton Colby averaged 12.7 per return last week. You want to know what his numbers were today? 17 and a half yards
17,
per D-Gun.
Yeah.
Why is this about D-Gun? I told you I'm a fan of Covey. I don't want to see him get hurt. That's all I'm
Mike
saying.
Missinelli, this is 17 and a half per.
This is the most coverage Britton Covey will ever get.
No, he's
John,
he's going to have 20 yards per return next week.
All right. Now you stretch it.
I'm okay with that.
Stretch it.
All right, John, Jalen Hurts, very productive day, 375 passing and running, but 15 carries and a couple of them, a few straight up the middle carries. I'm not so sure I'm in love with that. Was that asked to Nick Sirianni, that the overuse with Jalen Hurts? He got clipped a couple times hard and it looked like a dangerous hit on his legs. What are we feeling about 15 carries?
Yeah, that was a big story, and so was Dallas. Nick got asked about, Jalen got asked about the running game. Look, they continue to harp on, look, it's what the defense has given us, but, it's funny. This week it was Dallas Goedert, and, I asked Nick and I asked Brian Johnson, the guy came in with 88 yards receiving in 4 games. 88 in 4 games. And all of a sudden, he's got 117 on 8 receptions. He caught 4 passes on the opening drive. And Nick will tell you, and he told me, that wasn't the game plan. It's just the way the ball went. They do this constantly. Week 1 in Detroit, if you remember, Devontae Smith last season didn't catch a pass. Week 2, they threw it to him all the time. A.J. Brown this year, no traffic, week 1. Week 2, bang. It's all A.J. Brown all the time. they're very cognizant to get these three players involved. And that's why, I don't care that much about Quez Watkins or Olamide Zaccheaus unless one of those receivers gets hurt. And then you can legitimately talk about, well, you need better depth. All right, but it's not like you can have a star waiting in the wings at every position. We're seeing this at slot corner. If you have some bad luck, you can't, what I'm trying to say is you can't replace A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. So you could say pie in the sky. I wish I had an all-pro receiver sitting on the bench. That's just not the way this league works. You need role players. And the Eagles' offense runs through A.J., Devontae, Dallas Goedert, and those are the players that literally every single passing play is designed to go to, except for the weird 3rd and 2 bubble screen to Quez Watkins.
Hey, John, you mentioned his name a few moments ago. Devontae Smith, shockingly, 1 catch for only 6 yards. Is that just how the game?
You know what that means, Steve?
You what?
Next week.
You know
Next
what
week
that
you
means?
get 20 quick
Next
catches.
week he's got eight for 135.
Was that just part of how the game flowed today, or did Devontae talk about that at all?
Devontae didn't talk about it, but
Okay.
yeah, that's what Nick said. That's the way the game flowed. But I'm partially jesting. But no, he will catch 7-8 balls next week, and
Yep.
they will be very, very focused on getting him the football. It's too much of a consistent theme with this team to say they don't take that into account. So, well, look, there's progressions on every play, right? So, yeah, some plays are designed. In fact, Nick said on the big Dallas Goedert play, so the one that went for 49 yards, he was the second progression. That ball was supposed to go to Devontae. So some of it, yes, you get taken away, and then all of a sudden the ball goes to Dallas Goedert. But I guarantee you, he'll have 6, at worst, 7 catches next week.
I agree.
John, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but you want to know something, man. That whole thing about, that's just where the ball went, that's nonsensical. Because, when you want to design plays, because it's just the truth. And when you want to design something a certain way, you can design it that way. It was very evident that it was game planned, to get Dallas going early in this game.
Yeah.
And you guys.
You know what, Seth? I asked Nick that question. He gave me a little pushback because I've been asking him that question all week. And he's like, rolled his eyes at me and said, no, that's just the way it went. It wasn't designed. So take it for what it's worth. But, he caught 4 passes on the opening drive. As I said, coming into this game, and Nick heard it all week, Brian heard it all week, he had 88 yards receiving. That's 22 per game for what is a Pro Bowl level tight end. And then all of a sudden he gets the football. 117 yards. He cracked the first 4 games in almost halftime. They were focused on getting them the football, no matter what they say.
It's nonsensical because, you said that you guys didn't see it, but there was a little conversation that went on, with Nick Sirianni and Devontae Smith. And just like, when A.J. Brown had his little blow-up a couple of weeks back, the first play of the next series, guess who got the ball on the out route? Devontae Smith. Yep. So, when you want to give the ball where you want to get the ball, you can get the ball there. I just would like to see this offense be more diverse because I think it would make it, so much more hard to defense. And you can't get around it. I mean, A.J. Brown's had, 3 100-yard passing games, receiving yard games, in the last consecutive 3 games. But think about it, if you got everybody, when you get everybody involved, think about how much harder it is for a defense coordinator to say, okay, how do we stop this offense? And I get it. You can't stop A.J. Brown right now. He is just eating all over the place. But you can keep everybody happy even though there's only one ball if you can disperse, these targets in a much more balanced way where Devontae's getting a few, and AJ's getting a few, and Dallas is engaged, and you also got DeAndre Swift and Kenneth Gainwell coming out of the backfield. You know, if I'm a defensive coordinator, I'm pulling my hair out at night trying to figure out how I defend that.
Well, and I think they're already doing that, to be honest, Seth. I mean, as I said, they're over 415 for 4 consecutive games now, and that's only the 4th time in history that they've done this in this entire franchise. So, I mean, they're very successful offensively. The one issue is the red zone, which they're still struggling a little bit in. I will say, you know, the running game wasn't working at all in the first half, and then you look up and DeAndre Swift is at 17 for 70, so very respectable. They got him the football, catching the football, 6 for 38, so he had 23 touches. So you have 4 guys who need the football, and all of a sudden, you know, all right, how much room is there for Quez Watkins and Kenny Gainwell and Olamide Zaccheaus at that point? But I will say in the passing game, look, as I said, Dallas 8 of 9, AJ was 6 of 8, DeAndre was 6 of 6. So those were the 3 top targets today, and there were only 3 incompletions when Jalen was targeting those 3 players.
John, I do want to go back to the red zone because you just mentioned it right there, and it is something that is really bothering. I know a lot of Eagles fans. Look, they're 5-0. Everyone's excited that they're 5-0. Everyone's happy they're 5. I'm happy they're 5-0. But the red zone against better teams is something that the Eagles are going to have a lot more success than what we have seen so far to this point this season. So when it comes to it, is that more on Nick Sirianni's plate, or is that more on the play caller Brian Johnson's plate, or is Brian Johnson even the real play caller in those situations in the red zone? So how do you divide blame or, you know, really give credit?
Well, I do. If Brian is calling the plays, I mean, Nick does not want to call the plays. He does not want to call the plays. So Brian Johnson's the play caller. Now, they're very collaborative. They do most of the work during the week. Kevin Patullo is involved as well. But as far as, you know, Nick talked about it pretty extensively. He considers the problem 1st and 2nd down more than 3rd down. They're getting in 3rd and longs when they're in the red zone. And obviously the space isn't as great. Everything tightens up. And when you're in 3rd and long, you're less effective. Now, they were 2 of 6 today, I think 2 of 5 really, because they were just trying to run out the clock at the end and really weren't trying to score. But yeah, if they would have punched a couple of those in, this would have been a blowout. The one I think that was, you know, really bad was probably the 3rd and 11 last week to Kenny Gainwell trying to hit the draw play. But, you know, we don't judge, and I'm very honest about this, we don't judge play calling, we judge play results. So, you know, sometimes I used to talk about this with Doug Peterson a lot. You know, sometimes players will bail out coaches. And you know, as a coach, you made a bad play call, but maybe A.J. Brown makes a phenomenal play and bails you out. In the case of Doug, Alshon Jeffrey or somebody of that nature. And then sometimes you got the perfect play call dialed up for this situation, and maybe the left guard misses a block, or, you know, Jack Stoll misses a block, or Sua misses a block, and it gets blown up before you even know the right play call is there. So it's mainly about execution, and they haven't been as good as they would like to be in the red zone. And they got to get better. When they start playing better teams, they will be able to take advantage if the Eagles are settling for field goals. And they understand that. And it probably starts a couple weeks in Miami against Miami. And then you have San Francisco, Dallas, Buffalo. Those teams are going to have to be better in the red zone, or it's probably going to come back and haunt you.
He is John McMullen covering the game for us from SoFi Stadium in L.A. Are you on the red eye tonight, John, or are you going to hang out and have a little L.A. nightlife tonight?
Not much nightlife because my flight is at 6:15 in range. So no red eye.
All right. Well, listen.
Yeah.
Have a beverage on me. All right. Thank you.
I got a Bud Light waiting on
There you
the
go.
Los Angeles Rams. So I thank the Rams for that.
Sounds good. Thank you, John. Appreciate it. John McMullen joining us after every Eagles game. All right, so when we come back, we're going to have some updates on a great charity we're involved with and a contest that we're running, pitting all of us against each other with some fan involvement. I'll give you a little hint. I'm in the lead. It is the Pond Lehocky Eagles postgame show live.
Gotta
from
be
Ocean
rigged.
Casino.
That's rigged.
That's fake news.
We're back with the crew after this.
Hi everybody, my name's Jason Lombardi. I'm an inspector at DryTech. At DryTech we offer 3 major services, the first one being basement waterproofing, the second service we offer is foundation and structural repairs, and then the third service that we offer is mold remediation. If you feel you are having a waterproofing issue, give DryTech a call or check us out online.